What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Smile Today podcast, the number one podcast in the world to make you smile today. I hope you're having an amazing day so far, and if you're reading the title of this episode, this is going to be a special episode about my story. It's my story behind my smile, and I've gotten thousands, if not tens of thousands of DMs of people asking me about my story, and for so long, I couldn't share it because I couldn't remember it. I had some harder seasons. I think a lot of people say, there's pain behind that smile. There's a story behind it that he doesn't tell us about, or he's faking it. I promise it's not fake now, but it definitely used to be. And there was a season that I couldn't remember anything. And I had to pray and pray and pray for God to show me more of my testimony, to show me more of the season that I had no idea that I experienced. And today is the day that I'm going to be sharing this with you. So I'm going to try to keep it kind of short, but I'm also going to get into detail and share things with you guys that I haven't shared with anybody. Not even my family, my friends, or anyone other than God. So yeah, let's backtrack. So I grew up in a small town outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And my parents, I have two loving parents. I have a sister who's amazing. And both my parents worked. My dad was a police officer and my mom worked in banking. And I mention that both my parents worked because that's not normal for the area that I live in. See, when I went to school, in elementary school, mom was always home. Mom was able to pick you up if you weren't feeling well. I didn't have that. My mom was on the road from what I remember pretty much my entire life. And being a mama's boy, that's kind of hard. If you're a mama's boy, you understand. Like, it's, you want to see your mom. You love your mom. And I didn't see her much because my parents, when they got married, they told me the story the other day. They had like 70 cents in their bank account. They're like, we were broke. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so I've seen what they've done to sacrifice to get to, get me where I am and my sister where we are. And we're just so grateful. And that's why we work so hard. And so, yeah, growing up, mom and dad really weren't around as much. I'd say, in elementary school, I didn't really comprehend it. I was like, oh, like my mom types in the computer and drinks coffee. Like, and I was like, my dad, arrest bad guys. And my dad was a really good cop. He was a cop in Charlotte, and he did so much good for the community. He actually retired about 3 years ago now. But that's what I knew my parents as in elementary school. Like, oh, they're working and, that's cool. But in middle school, I think it really hit me. My sister would wake me up for school every morning. And Annabeth, you're amazing. You woke me up every day for school, and you fed me, and you made sure I got to the bus stop, and you made sure I got to class, and you were just awesome. And so she was like the guinea pig, and I kind of feel bad because she's so independent, which is great, but she had to kind of just go through it and figure it out. And then I was just kind of like, oh, should I do this or that? And she's like, give me it. She would do it for me or whatever. But she's so awesome. And yeah, so in middle school, I think that's when my emotions started processing, and I started to experience something that I've never felt before. So I remember in sixth grade, I was in Miss Herring's class, and we're sitting down, and out of nowhere, like, my heart starts racing. I remember, like, I started feeling sick, nauseous, and I couldn't control whatever was going on inside of me. And I stood up, and I was like, what is going on? Breathing heavy. And my teacher's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And what I didn't realize was that was my first anxiety attack in the sixth grade. I've always been a worrier. I was always kind of a worrying kid, but that was my first actual attack. And I had no idea how to control it. And I struggled with that for many years. All through sixth grade, I'd have them almost every week. Seventh grade, I have them every week. I remember one time I mentioned it to my dad, and I'm like, is this normal? He's like, no, you're just growing. I'm like, okay. And I think he just meant well, in meaning that, like, when you're in seventh grade, you're not supposed to be having anxiety attacks. You're not supposed to feel like anxious in a sense. Like, you have virtually like no responsibility in some sense. And so I was like, what is this? What is going on? So I went through, sixth to eighth grade, like, what the heck is this anxiety? And I could never get a grip on it. I couldn't shake it. I had no idea. And middle school is an interesting time because you just get exposed to so many different things, and your mind is starting to, I'd say, develop, but you're just like a sponge. I was introduced to pornography in middle school, right? And that was something that had a hold on me too. So I had anxiety and this, and um, yeah, it was so hard. I just remember like I was in this cycle and I just couldn't really get out of it. And the only way that really kept me away from it was being busy. I played a lot of sports. I played baseball, soccer, and I swam. So I was always rushed around town to go play sports and stay busy in that sense. But that stuff really, really kind of, I wrestled with it. And I didn't realize how young that I was kind of wrestling with these things. And so as I left eighth grade, I remember going into ninth grade that summer. We had someone in our school who unfortunately took his life, and it was due to bullying. And I will never forget going to that funeral. I'll never forget sitting there in a room of all these people in my grade. And I just thought to myself, like, man, maybe I didn't do enough. Like, maybe I wasn't kind enough to this person. And my heart broke because this was someone who was in my class. And when his family spoke up there, I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this. And I just remember taking a vow to try to be the kindest person I could possibly be from that point on. And, um, I said it, right? I said it in my thoughts, but my actions didn't align with that. So I went into freshman year and everything was fine freshman year. I played junior varsity soccer. I was just kind of like going through the motions. I didn't really care too much about school, and I should have, but I don't know. I was just kind of like getting used to everything. And freshman year was pretty much okay. Um, and then sophomore year, that's where things started to change in high school. I finally had this sense of judgment. I had this sense of people pay attention to me. People understand who I am, what I look like, what I dress like, every action that I do. And my anxiety came back harder, way harder. I mean, in sixth to eighth grade, I mean, it was manageable, right? Like it would flare up, and I would be able to be like, okay, let me drink some water, let me take some deep breaths. But like, once I got to sophomore year, I was like uncontrollable. Like I would be getting sick in the bathroom in the mornings. I I would sweat a lot. That was one thing I had no idea. I sweat a lot, um, and I couldn't eat a lot. I was always a skinny guy, but like, and I guess no one really expected me to eat that much. But like, I could not stomach anything. The only time I could ever feel safe was when I was at home, like literally sitting right here in this room and just like chilling, like not having to worry about external things. Like that was the only time I felt okay. Other than that, I felt very worried. And sophomore year was a year that I forgot. I was trying to remember my classes that I took, and I couldn't remember any classes that I took. I couldn't remember, you know, what my day looked like. It was just a blur. It seriously was just a blur. And so the second semester of my sophomore year, my mom came into my room one early morning. It was January 19th. She comes into my room and she sits down, and she sits down like she's about to break news to me. And I'm like, Mom, whatever you're about to tell me, please don't tell me. She had no idea that like I was still like wrestling with anxiety. And I never told my parents about that stuff, but she sat down and she said, your friend Benjamin, he passed away last night in his sleep. And I was like, Mom, I was so mad. I was like, Mom, why did you tell me this? It's so early. I just, like, you could have told me like 2 hours later. And she's like, I just had to tell you because Benjamin and I hung out like the week before that. Benjamin was a swimmer friend, and he was actually best friends with my best friend, Nick. And so I knew I needed to be there for my friend Nick. And I couldn't really process what happened because he had something called sudden death syndrome where he just died. Like, no reason, no heart attack. And that hurt so bad. And I know that hurt for my friend Nick. So I just tried to be there for him. But I had trouble grieving. I didn't really know how to grieve at that age, especially with something so sudden and like you had no idea like the actual cause. I just think there's no closure with it. And that really um, shook me. So I was fine for like 2 weeks. And then I remember 2 weeks after that, when the funeral happened, the night after that and the following nights for like months, I would just sit here at my desk and bawl my eyes out, like just cry. And I was so upset. And I just couldn't shake the fact that maybe that could happen to me. And I was afraid of death because I don't know. I looked up to the stars and I was like having an existential crisis every night. I was like, whoa, like what's going to happen when I die? Like I have no idea. Because at this point, I didn't go to church. I went to church when I was younger. My family raised me Catholic, but we stopped going to church when I was like 6 or 7 or something like that. And so I didn't know God. I knew God very loosely. And funny enough, I got my communion and confirmed in the church, but I don't even know who Jesus is. I literally had no idea. I was like, who's this Jesus guy everyone's talking about? I'm like, I only know God. And like, I'm pretty sure like he, I don't know, Adam and Eve. Like I had no idea. Like I genuinely like learned nothing. I don't know if like that was the enemy in my head because again, like I think the enemy just had such a grip on me from such a young age that anytime I went to religion school, I'm telling you, I would go once a week, every week for like from literally from like second grade all the way up to like ninth grade. I don't remember a single thing. I don't remember a teacher. I don't remember like anyone in my class. I barely remember anything. It's crazy. I'm telling you, this is why it's taken me so long to sit here and tell you about my story because I have no idea what happened. I didn't remember a single story about Jesus or anything. So I was having these existential crises my sophomore year. And I was just falling apart. And I am so good at covering this stuff up. Even in my later years, like I am just so good at just smile, wave, like I've just always been really good at that. So I was really hurting and I didn't know how to get a grip on that. And as we closed out sophomore year, I got my first job that summer as a swim coach. And that was great. I really liked doing it. I liked serving people. I got an idea of like, oh, this is like, I like helping people. And I ended up like liking this girl, and this was a full circle moment because that summer Musical.ly turned into TikTok. And so I was actually posting TikToks on the side. So like while I was at like after work or something, I would just come home and like film some TikToks and like post them and like not think twice of it. I just like post them. And I was like, they were like the pretty boy TikToks. You know what I'm talking about? Like kind of like the thirst trap TikToks. And I remember as that summer progressed, I made one post and it was like POV, you're late for school. And I kid you not, I posted it and I woke up the next morning and it had like 5 or 6 million views and I got like 80,000 followers overnight. So overnight, my life changed. Literally, my life changed. Like my TikTok account exploded. And at that point, like having 100,000 followers on TikTok was like a big deal. It was like, you're famous. So I had ego. I had this pride. I was like, look at me. I'm famous on TikTok and everybody knew about it. And it was like so like people would recognize me in public and it was like, whoa, this is so crazy. But then, I started getting like thousands of girls like coming on my Snapchats and being like, they would add me and I'd add them back and I would get sent all sorts of crazy things. And I fell into that. I fell into that trap of lust. I fell into that trap of just being out there and just like, wanting it, like being like, oh yeah, like yeah, that's who I am. I'm Jack. Like I'm this, I'm that. And it started to really like corrupt me. Like I've never told anyone how much it corrupted me. Like I was even seeing this girl at this time, I think I was dating this girl, I was unfaithful. I was, I had other girls that I was talking to and seeing, and it was like, just got into that mess so young. And so I was posting on TikTok still, and, I started my junior year, and sure enough, I walked through those front doors, and I'm TikTok boy. I'm that guy that everybody's pointing and laughing at, because honestly, the stuff I posted was so cringe. It was so cringe. But I also had like TikTok friends. Like literally, I was in a group chat with Charlie D'Amelio. Like you all know who that is. Crazy. Like I was in this giant group chat full of like influencers, and I didn't end up going on like whatever trip they planned out, but it was crazy. And I just kind of had to swallow that, and the fact that walking through those hallways in high school, like I was always getting picked on. I was always getting bullied, and at first it really hurt me, like, because I was always just anxious. I was so worried about what people said about me. And then I was like, you know what? I am like I am stupid. Like I am, I started just whatever they would tell me, I believed, right? So I would just start telling myself like, oh, dude, you're so cringe. Like you look so stupid. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like I'm so stupid. Like, and I had that negative self-talk. And that followed me for the longest time. It's so crazy how your words can transpire and shape your reality. Like I just thought that was so crazy. So, walking these hallways, I was like, oh yeah, I'm like a idiot, and um at that point, I had a pretty big friend group, and we all like collectively did not have a very high IQ. So we would go and steal booze from our parents, and we would go in the liquor cabinet, and we started drinking. We were like 16, 15, 16 years old. We started drinking on the weekends, and we were just kind of like YOLO. Like we just had this, like, I'm telling you, it was this friend group. Like we were just so nonchalant about everything, and we would just go do the stupidest things at like Targets or whatever, like the videos you see that people do. It's so bad. Like that's what we were doing. We were just being dumb and kids. We were being kids. So we're getting in a lot of trouble. And my junior year was truly like, that was, the year you take your SAT and your ACT. And I was an absolute bot. Like, I was like, what's an SAT and an ACT? And like, I showed up the day that they were like assigned, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't bring my calculator. I think I got like a 900 on my SAT, by the way. I forgot my calculator. So on the math section, I just put all C just to like see what it would happen. But COVID was my junior year of high school. So, we're all being like just young kids again, like drinking and very worldly, just kind of just staying in that crowd. You know what I mean? And then COVID happened, and we're like, yes, 2 weeks off of school. Like we're going to hang out every day. This is going to be awesome. And then it was like, oh, you're not returning back to school for your junior year, and your classes are all going to be online, and your summer is going to be like isolating, and like you had to wear a mask everywhere you went and all this stuff. And I was like, oh crap, like what am I supposed to do with life? What am I supposed to do at this point, because I already wasn't headed down a good path, and that stuff from TikTok was still following me. Like again, I think the lust, like I had a big problem with my lust and my pride still, and I was just so like involved in trying to get like a girlfriend, and like just I was always moving to like the next best thing in my eyes and what I thought at the time. So COVID put that all on a pause, and I remember COVID happened in March, and then those 2 months were kind of blurry. But I remember in May, I had a family friend. No, my cousin's boyfriend passed away in a car accident, and that shook me again. It really shook me again, because I don't know. At that point, I don't know. That was like my third funeral, and I remember just like looking at my mom, and I was like, man, if I do something that I guess like I regret, or, at the time, like I wanted like a fast, small car that can go a million miles per hour, or like, I don't know. I just wanted to just be like a daredevil in a sense, but like it made me just realize how like short life was. And I was like, I need to get my stuff together. I need to, make sure my parents think I'm doing all right. So that summer I started, like right after that, I started working out. My dad has always been a big CrossFit guru. He's like a big triathlon guy, and he's just a beast. And he kind of showed me the ropes of working out. And we used this home gym downstairs, and I did a lot of body weight exercises, and I got into working out. And this was like a pivotal moment for me, because working out became something that I used as, a way to process these emotions and like put them into something. I think that's so healthy if you're like overthinking or something, like going and working out just to clear your mind, because it releases all these healthy chemicals, right, in our bodies. So I was like, oh, this is great. So we ended up getting like a small group of people, and we had a little like Joe's gym became like this became this workout area. I work out with my friends 5-6 days a week, and I learned so much about fitness training and nutrition, and I just learned a lot, and it just became a passion of mine. So working out just really stayed with me. And during this time, I started to just kind of work on my mindset, and just I wanted to help people. I was like, okay, my friend was overweight and he was sick of it. He came over. He lost like 60 pounds in like 6 months. It was insane. Like he just lost so much weight, and we were so proud of him. And that stuff to the core has still kept us as like really strong friends. And I'm very grateful for that. So, despite the loss and despite some of the hardships, COVID really put a stop on everything, a hold on everything. So when they decided, hey, we're going to try to go back to school, like hybrid, if that's, possible, like, okay, like, let's give it a shot. And so I went like the first 2 weeks, and I was like, Mom and Dad, like, this is not good. Like, I do not like this at all. So I stayed home. Which was actually good. My online school routine consisted of me sleeping, waking up, turning on my computer, going back to bed, and then I feel embarrassed to admit this, and then going to play video games with my friends, and then, we'd go to class, and then we'd play more video games, go to the gym, and then go home, go to sleep, whatever. But despite that, okay, you know what? I'm sorry. That's just how it rolled. My mom was home during COVID, so she couldn't go into work. So my mom, who was traveling my whole life, who I really didn't have that good of a relationship with, here we are, hanging out every day, me bothering her, annoying her to the absolute T. She loved it, and I loved it. And it was really nice to grow in a relationship with my mom, because when stuff started to open up as the year progressed, I was still big in the gym. I had my soccer season. Somehow we had to wear masks, which was crazy. But when things started to open up, she was like my wingman, and I'll explain that in a second. But I started dating someone at this time, guys, like for real. Like it was like my first official person that lasted more than like 6 months. And it was my first love, and she was awesome. She was so cool, but I was so insecure still. Like I still had those thoughts where I believed, what people were telling me was true. And so I kind of just believed that I was like, a not so great person. The word I would use is inappropriate. So I don't know. I just didn't have a lot of self-love at this point, because it's, when you're playing the game, when you're playing the game of the world, I feel like I manipulated women for so long, and I kind of stayed in that mess for so long, that when I got in this relationship, I just felt like I wasn't worthy of it. And she always tried to encourage me and say that I was, but I just didn't feel like that. So I was in this relationship for a while, and I think I ended up breaking things off because, again, my insecurity. I was the jealous type, because she was a beautiful woman, and I couldn't handle her having like a guy best friend or something. And anyways, so my heart was broken. It was shattered in a million pieces, and part of my healing process was alcohol. So I'd sit in my room alone and I'd drink. Yep. Even on school nights. It wasn't really a school night because I wasn't going to school, but I literally remember filling up a glass full of liquor and just like I would just go for the back of the cabinet. And it wasn't until years later my mom found all the liquor that I took, and she's like, "Wow, these bottles are empty, or these bottles smell like water." Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd fill it up with water afterwards. Once I finished it, it's like it never happened. That was bad though. I knew there was a problem when I started just drinking alone for fun, and that was not good. So as stuff started opening up during COVID, or after COVID, which was like 2021, still working out, still going to the gym, but we actually ended up getting a prom, which was really fun. We didn't expect to get a prom and a graduation. So, I went to prom, had a great time. I don't remember it at all, of course, because I was drinking. And, my mom, she knew I was, going to like a party and whatnot. And, she was kind of like, but, we, I pretty much just, I don't know. I got in this cycle, I got invited to all these graduation parties after, because it was like prom then graduation. Like it happened like 2 and 2. And I remember right before graduation, I went on a little trip with my friends, and we were drinking like nonstop all day, every day. And I think there was a time where I literally was drinking, like, I drank 11 or 12 days straight, literally, like, drunk every day. And that was really bad. And then that whole summer, like the whole senior year summer, I wasn't working. And I would lie to my parents and I'd say, like, oh, I'm going to like so and so's house. And I would just go somewhere else and drink like a lot. And that was like 3 or 4 nights a week. And I was lying to my parents so much. And I didn't feel bad about it because I was just so rebellious. And again, like, I didn't believe in God. I didn't have like any respect for pretty much anything or anyone. So I just think I was trying to fill a hole in my heart that, obviously wasn't working. And so that whole summer, I just kind of like rebelled against my parents. I got in a lot of trouble with my parents, a lot. Um, like there was one moment they they were so hard on me. It was because I really screwed up, and I was like, wow, that was like kind of a full circle moment, and I felt like I had some sort of like accountability, but like not really. Like I cared, and then like a week later, I forgot about it. Um, Whereas now, if I did something disrespectful, I would literally just I'd be like, wow, I would apologize just flat out. I wouldn't blame it on anything else. I used to just blame thing on like I used to blame things on everybody else except for myself. So that was something that yeah, it was hard. And then here comes Jack, like now from high school, like ready to go to college. And by the way, I barely got into college. I went to Appalachian State University. I had to like hop on a phone call and be like, "Hey, can you guys like let me into your university?" Because my GPA was so bad from high school because I was messing around and doing so many things that weren't about school. I promise you, they weren't about school, and I barely got into university. So my parents helped me pack up my stuff, and it dropped me off at my first day in my dorm, and they dropped me off, and they're like, oh, like my college dorm was nicer than this. I'm like, ha, that makes me feel so much better. Ha, like it wasn't a nice dorm. It literally was getting torn down the year after that, like we found out. And so we get there, and um, I had a cool roommate. His name is Matthew. He's an awesome guy, so supportive. And at first, it was so funny. Like at first, me and him like hated each other. Actually, I think I just hated him because I just was again like an insecure guy, very hostile, had a lot of anger issues. I had a lot of anger issues. Oh my goodness. And at first, just like getting adjusted to college. I remember like I called one of my friends within the first week, and I'm like, dude, I just feel like I don't belong here. Like genuinely, like I'm kind of sick of this partying stuff, right? It's usually the opposite. Like you get to school and you're like, oh, I want to party. Like I can't wait to like, let's booze up, and I'm like, I am exhausted. So that was a good thing. I actually kept me away from alcohol for a little bit, and I still drank, but not to the same degree. But what happened was I just didn't know any better at a certain point where I lived in this bubble at home where it just wasn't real life. Like I'm so grateful for where I grew up, but at the same point, like it just isn't real. Like it's not reality. So going into school, I meet all these people from different areas, from different backgrounds, and I have like uh, this just kind of like set. I don't know what I would even call it. Um, I don't know. I had this like set idea in my head of like certain people, and that kind of like grossly carried with me into college. And I was saying a lot of bad things, and I was doing some things that I was like, what the heck? I don't think anything that I touched at that point was good my freshman year. And I just started to get into like the wrong crowd, and you don't truly realize how much your environment affects you until you leave it. But among that, I found another girl who I started talking to, and we actually ended up dating. And she was great. She was a sweetheart. She was honestly like the person that kind of like really saw me for who I was somehow, like kind of through all my mess and all my gray and everything. And she was so kind, and it was really cool experiencing that in college. But slowly, every day, I was just becoming someone who I couldn't recognize. Like I remember I was saying some just like flat out, just bad, racist, awful things, and I remember like going into my room and like a voice in my head was like, why are you saying these things? Why are you doing these things? Like, you know better. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And then I just turn away and I would just say whatever. Didn't care. I didn't care at all. And as that semester progressed, I was just losing everything, every part of myself. I just didn't know. Like, I had no idea who I was. Part of college is a discovery, um, rather than the education, I would say. And so I was discovering, not really. I was just growing into bad habits, bad crowds, doing bad things. And, you could say like your basic, like degenerate things. Like, I was doing worse. I promise I was doing worse. And I won't mention the stuff that I was doing because it's not easy to talk about any of this stuff. But I remember getting back after my first semester of my freshman year of college and being like, okay, we got to get a job. I don't have any money and I just want to hang out with my friends. And at the time, I was actually really big into the gym. I kind of skipped over that. I was still going to the gym a lot during college, and I became like this mass monster. I was like a man on a mission to try to become like the biggest, like meathead you could ever imagine. I'm telling you, I was working out so hard. I was like literally 3 hours a day, because like in college you have a lot of time. Like you have way more time than you can imagine. And so I would just work out and eat like crazy. So I burned through all my money my freshman year, but I was massive. Like I was like, I was bulky. I was big dog. You know what I'm saying? I went from like 154 pounds to like 180 pounds in like 5 months. It was crazy. So I came home, worked at Papa John's. Whole nother story. Won't even talk about that right now because I was just like the worst Papa John's employee ever. Yeah, I'm saying it. I was terrible. Yeah, Jack, how can you be bad at delivering pizzas? Leave it up to me. I promise. I am not good at that stuff. So, I I worked at Papa John's, and after that, I made some money, but I worked there for like 3 weeks, and then I quit, and so I remember getting back the next semester, and I was a man on a mission. I think I was ready to start like my social media, like up again, because over COVID, I just quit. Like I just completely stopped. And I always had that account that was just like lingering. It was just kind of like losing followers. And I was like, I don't really care about this anymore. But I was like, you know what? It would be really cool this semester if I was locked in and able to like post consistently back on this page and kind of like revive it, because everyone's like, oh, remember when you had that TikTok account? And I was like, oh, maybe I could turn it into a gym account. We'll see what happens. So that semester I came back. The first day, I'm like, oh, I'm still bulking, so I'm gonna go down and go to the dining hall and do my normal routine. So I ate at the dining hall and I walk back to my dorm before my class and I sit in my room and it's like silent. And I remember like looking up at the wall and I'm like, I think I'm gonna be sick. Like I genuinely think I'm gonna be sick. And I'm like, maybe not. And then I ran to the bathroom and I threw up and I was like, oh man, like I'm sick. Dang it, this is gonna hurt the bulk. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna take it easy for the rest of the day. Didn't eat much. Next day, woke up, same routine. I'm a big routine guy. Same routine. Went to the dining hall, ate, came back. Here I am, sick again. I'm like, Mom, I think I'm sick. Like, what medicine should I take? And she's like, if your stomach's sick, like Pepto Bismol. I'm like, all right, take Pepto Bismol. Okay. Next day, same thing. Next day, same thing. Next day, same thing. What is going on? Why am I getting sick? Right, like every morning, it was like morning sickness. Like literally, like I would wake up, throw up, start my day. So after a while, I had to make a decision. I was like, well, I need to eat. Like I haven't ate anything in like a week. Should I try to eat? And I've really figured out that it was my anxiety that came back full force, punching. So I didn't tell anybody about this, but like it was literally every morning I would just throw up. Whether that was like on the way to class, in the bathroom, yeah, like in the bushes. I remember like one day I was like walking to class and I would just like I just threw up right in the bushes. And I had to figure out this system on how to avoid like throwing up in the morning because it was just a trigger, like it was just something that happened naturally. So I figured out I couldn't eat until 2 or 3 o'clock every day, and I could only eat between 2 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night. So what I would do is I'd wake up, buy a Celsius in the fridge, drink the Celsius, throw it up on the way to class because it would it kind of help my stomach a little bit, but I'd still throw it up. And then I would eat at like 2 or 3, and then I would eat again later. I eat like as much as I could before I went to bed, and I just make sure I eat enough protein because I just was in a calorie deficit essentially. So I just made sure I was in a proper calorie deficit, and I was like shredding down, I guess. And so I was still posting gym content at this time, and like still working out heavy, still like pushing myself in the gym, and I just didn't tell a soul. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. I remember there was only probably one person that knew, other than my girlfriend, who really helped me out a lot. And I still, to this day, praise God for her because she felt like home for me. And I told you guys earlier that like when I had anxiety, like the only place I felt comfortable was at home, and she was like my home, and I'm just so grateful for her. But um, the only other person that knew was my friend McKinley. I would go in his room at night and we would watch some sort of anime together. Like I remember one was Attack on Titan or Hunter x Hunter, and like he just became a person that he'd be like, "Hey man, you want to sit down and eat for a little bit?" And so I'm very grateful for him. He has no idea how much that helped me just get through that second semester of my freshman year. And I remember at the end of that semester, I didn't tell anybody other than my girlfriend. She knew. Um, and she didn't even know all of it because she was so worried about me, and I didn't want people to worry about me. But I remember calling my parents, and I'm like, I don't think I want to come back here next year. Like, I don't know what I'm doing in college. And I think I was just having this big identity crisis. Like, my anxiety had such a hold on me that I was like, I have no purpose. I have no goals. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't know who I am anymore. And I was just kind of like breaking down. So I remember like, I was like, okay, I need to go home. Like, so I got home as quick as I could. And I actually ended up breaking things off with my girlfriend because I was like, you know what? I want a fresh start. Like, I don't even want, I just, it wasn't even like I fell out of love with her. It was just one of those things where like I was just so broken. I couldn't have her in my life anymore. And I just remember I was like, okay, if I can get a fresh start, how can this happen? How can I change? And I thought the way to change was social media because I started posting that second semester. Even though I was struggling, I was like, you know what? I'm going to post. And I had some videos that actually started to like go kind of viral, and I revived my account a little bit. But I just wanted to use it as my escape. I wanted to use it as a way to get away from the people that I was surrounding myself with and the people that were just draining me. Again, because you don't realize how much your environment affects you until you leave it. And once I left, I was like, wow, it truly is the people I'm surrounding myself with right now. And I need to take a step back from that. So I did. And I came home and I was working a part time job. I think I was actually just doing like freelancing, like lawn stuff outside. I was always hustling for like money because that's just how I made my money, I guess. And I was doing this social media stuff on the side. I would post at like 10 o'clock every day, and I just started making like a large, um, like I just remember I just made like a lot of posts, and I was just like, okay, let's see where this goes. And I tracked it in my notebook. I was like, oh man, if we hit 10,000 followers by the end of the summer, like I made it, you know? And wow, looking back at that, that's crazy. But I grew so much faster than that. I had a video that I think had like 20 million views on Instagram or something like that. And I was on ESPN. I was on like all the major platforms. I was being broadcasted on like television. It was crazy. I'm telling you, it was the craziest thing ever. But I would get these DMs and people would be like, bro, this is so inspiring. You're my inspiration. You're my role model. And I'm like, dude, I am like the worst person you could ever imagine. Like, do you know what I've done? Do you know who I am? And the enemy was just like so present at that point. And every day that I smiled, I was like the gym guy who was smiling a lot. I would smile, but it was so fake. And it was just covering up like this hurt that I had in my heart, this hurt that I could not get out of. And then that's where all more of the negative self talk started happening. That's where I even had a friend at that time that would just, he wasn't feeding me with the right stuff because he was also in a bad place. And I was like, I don't really know what to do. I'm going to keep posting because like this is working. Like this is like, it's starting to become something. But again, every day, it's like even beyond that freshman year, second semester freshman year, I was just digging myself in a deeper hole and I didn't know how to get out. And I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I was a man. And if I was a man, I knew that it was better to just swallow it and just let it sit there. I'm not supposed to talk about it because I'm a man, right? I'm not supposed to say anything because that's what we do. We're supposed to just be strong and tough. But I was breaking. I was breaking. And I needed help. I truly needed help. My brain was so messed up at that point. I would believe anything you told me. And not only that, I overthought everything. So not only did I have anxiety now, and even when I was home, anxious, but I had imposter syndrome and I was overthinking constantly. And I was just like, is this normal? Like, oh, maybe it'll get better. Like, in time, it'll get better. But every time I tried to feel a little better, guess what? Someone would come up to me and be like, yo, this is great, bro. But like, remember when you did this? Yo, this is great, bro. But remember when you said that? Oh, this is great, bro. But remember who you were? Yeah, I do. I do. So I left that summer and went back to App State for my sophomore year of college. Although I didn't want to go back, my dream ultimately was to drop out and be this like gym guy, this gym guru online that was doing well. But I went back to college, and the second I got there and I stepped foot on that App State campus, that was my hell on earth. That was a place that changed me so much that I couldn't even look up when I was walking to class. I didn't even want to say hello to anybody that I knew from the past year. Anytime I saw someone, I just walked the opposite direction. I kept my hood up. I always wore like pants everywhere I went because I would sweat like crazy. I was so like anxious being on this campus. I would pour sweat. I'm not even lying. I had to go on this stuff called Drystall to like help me stop sweating because it was like crazy how bad it was. And I could not face the man in the mirror who I was. I genuinely, it was so hard for me to go to class. It was so hard. And luckily I was STEM before that. I wanted to go to PA school. So I was actually in a different I was on a different campus, which was like way far away from campus, but I had a few classes on campus. And I remember this one class, and I have no idea what it was about. I can't remember anything from 2022 to be honest. And like, I'm trying my best right now, and by the grace of God, to tell you what I remember. But I remember going to class and sitting in this class and just being like, can this just be over? Can this just be over? And every day I'd show up somehow, and I'd walk through that door and I'd sit there and I would just think about every freaking thing that I did on that campus. Every single line, every single detail, every situation, and it would always go down to the worst case scenarios. It would always be like the worst possible outcome. What if this happened? Well, I said this to this guy, so like what if he like did this? And it was always like so bad. I'm telling you, the enemy had such a grip on me that anything I did, thought, or said, I had to think 18,000 times about. I genuinely I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. And then as the days progressed, I just remember like, is this how my life is going to be? Is this how I'm going to continue to live? And that was just like the first month. The first month I was like, all right, we got through the first month. And I told you I broke up with my girlfriend at the time. Well, she had all her friends were my friends because she was just cooler around guys, and guys treated her so much better. So when we broke up, I told her like, be friends with these people if you want. I don't think I want to step there. So I would be very lonely during this time too. I didn't have a lot of people to talk to. I didn't have a lot of people to reach out to. I wasn't getting invited to those hangouts because my ex-girlfriend was there. So I spent a lot of time alone and lonely. I would cry nonstop. I was like, maybe it gets better. Like, I'm just going to keep holding on to hope because maybe this thing will turn around. And each day got worse, worse, worse. And I remember one football game, I saw my ex-girlfriend and we ended up talking, and somehow we actually ended up getting back together, which was a really good thing because she was probably the reason that I didn't exit life early. Because that was truly my starting to be my bottom point. Like, she was a person that I really cared about. She's a person that I loved so much, and I still have so much love for to this day. Just a great woman. And I had now this satisfaction of being with someone who, was my home away from home, essentially. Like, she was back in my life and everything was okay. And I don't recommend that, by the way. I think it was something that I did selfishly because it was like something I needed. Like I was like, I need someone right now to support me, or else I don't know what I'm gonna do to myself. That's what it was getting to. I didn't know what I was gonna do to myself. So I continued throughout the year. I would go to class, and she was kind of like always on my mind, like, hey, when are we hanging out next? Like, hey, when can we do this? And again, it would like really occupy a space that I needed. I was still going to the gym, and I was still posting on social media, but it wasn't to the same extent. It started to really drop off because I was just not in a good headspace. And I think slowly over time, I was dissolving, and I was like, this stuff is so stupid. Like, I can't stand social media. Like, I just want to quit and give up. And I just was broken, and I just didn't think that life could get any worse from that point, because it just felt like the same thing over and over again. It was like wake up, overthink all freaking day, go to class, overthink more, feel guilty about your past, not forgive yourself, and go to bed and try to sleep and try to sleep. But realistically, it was just rolling around every night. Every night. And I wasn't so vocal about it at the time because, again, like, you don't want people to worry about you. You don't want people to be like, what's up with this guy? You don't want to seem weak. And I think that was like the hardest thing for me to do because I was so weak. I was so weak. So I would try to go home like any chance I could. Like any chance I could get, I would go home. And my dad retired in September of 2022, and I would go home for that. I'd go home in October. I just went home any chance that I could because I just didn't want to be at App State. Again, it was just a place that just made me feel so little and I wasn't proud of. But there was this one instance, and this was the bottom of the barrel. This was the lowest point I ever got to, and this was the time where things just got shaky. I haven't told anyone about this. I just told my dad recently. Um, the week, the day before I was supposed to leave for winter break, I was in the car with my girlfriend. We were going to go to Starbucks like we always do, and I was just, again, the insecure type, the jealous type, and I started some stupid argument. And we were driving down the road, and we're arguing. And as we're arguing, she is looking at me while she's driving, and I'm looking at her. And we're getting up to speed, and this car pulls out in front of us. And she slams on the brake, and I like hit my head on the freaking dash or something. And I just remember grabbing my arm and just slapping her arm so hard. I mean, so hard. And it left a mark on it. And I won't forget that look, that feeling of I just hurt the person that loves me the most. The person that like realistically like cared about me so deeply, and I that was the moment, I think, where I was ready to just end it. I was already having thoughts about it, but that was the one, because I would never put my hands on anyone, and that's when I was like, I don't even know who is this? Who is this guy? Who's this person that does these things? Who's this person that I don't know? So I remember sitting in the car and just being like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to go on? How do you recover from something like that? And it I didn't know who to tell. Like, I didn't know who to talk to about it, because it was like, this was like I don't know. So I had my stuff packed in my car, and she dropped me off, and I just knew like we're I'm gonna break up with her, and um, so I get in my car and I start driving. I start driving, and I just remember just being so upset. Just I was like, I don't. How can I even like look at like my family in the face after doing something like that? And I was driving down this section of 421, and there's a very steep drop off there, and I closed my eyes and I just let go of the wheel, and I felt the car like give, like I just felt the car go, and and I um and I just closed my eyes, and I was just kind of like, let it go, let this thing go. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. There's nothing left. And then out of there, at that moment, like God called me, like literally, like whoa. Like I just remember it was like, don't do that. And I woke up and I grabbed the wheel, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like I can't deal with this suffering anymore. Like I can't. And I drove home, and I called my girlfriend at the time, and we talked it out, and she forgave me, but I couldn't forgive myself, and I was okay with that. So I get home, and it was just eating me alive. Like every day I would think about it nonstop. This is like, I can't believe that I hit my girlfriend. I can't believe I did this. Like, and she was always reassuring me it was fine, it was okay. You didn't do anything wrong. You were protecting me. I'm like, it's not the same. And so I that whole break, I couldn't remember anything. Like all I remember was just worrying nonstop. I know I went to New York to visit my family every Christmas, like I always do, but it was just like numb. I was so numb. Like I genuinely could not feel anything. I couldn't think about anything. But for that reason, for that just that voice that I heard, I was like, something tells me that there's hope. Even though I wanted to break up with my girlfriend every day from that point forward, something told me there was hope in 2023. So I got a journal, and I wrote down all these goals that I had, all these ambitions that I had. And I was like, all right, we'll see what happens. So we go back to school, and everything's fine, but everything's fine with my relationship, I guess. But slowly, I just, I couldn't get out of bed. Like, it was just getting to that point where I was just suffering every day. I was in my thoughts so much. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't going to class. I just like, I couldn't get a grip on why I was here. Like, what was my purpose? What was I serving at this point? Because I let off social media after that incident. That was my catalyst of being done. And I almost deleted all my social media accounts on in December of 2022. But I was like, what am I doing here? Like, genuinely. So I called my mom, and my mom was like, I would call her a few times. I call her once a day. I try to. And she's like, Jack, I'm so busy with work. Like, you know who you should call? You should call your dad. I was like, why? I love you, Mom. And she's like, your dad, who's a retired cop, had 18 years of experience of SWAT negotiations. He would talk people out of doing some crazy things. And I said, really? She said, yeah. She's like, call your father. And I said, okay. So I call my dad. And instantly he starts like pouring into me. He's like, I understand. He's like, this is how I felt in college. He had a very similar situation, or not situation, but experience in college where he just didn't know what he wanted to do with his life in college. And I said, well, where do I start, Dad? He didn't know, but I was like failing out of class. Like I was failing out of college. I wouldn't go to a class. I'd skip every class. And he would be like, here, you should watch this video on this and listen to this podcast. And he was pointing me to resources about, accountability and ownership and just being able to own where you are, no matter where you're at. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm going to try this out. And every day I'd give him a little update. I was like, Dad, this helped me today. Thank you. Dad, I went to class today. Hey, Dad, I got a 86 on my exam. Like, Dad, like, you don't realize what you're doing for me, Dad. You don't realize that, like, you helped me in my lowest. You don't realize that, like, 1 month ago I was thinking about ODing. You don't realize, but like yesterday I was looking up ways on how to, hurt myself. Like, even my friends, like they don't even know like the conversations that they had with me that like genuinely made me feel better, because I was so good at hiding it. I was like a pro. Always talk about it. There's always people who love you and care about you. But so my dad he helped me out of this. And I remember one day I'm sitting in my room and I'm kind of like staring at this dusty book on my shelf, and it was my King James Bible from my confirmation. So I dust it off and I'm reading Matthew. And I remember a family friend told me about the movie or the show, The Chosen. And I'm like, who's this Jesus guy everyone's talking about? Because everyone that knows Jesus just seems to have this spark in them. And I started watching the show and I got hooked. I got hooked on Jesus. I was like, man, this guy is so cool. This guy, you're telling me he's God, and he came down and dwelled among us and served us and healed thousands and broke bread, and it was just so cool. I was like, this Jesus guy is awesome. I got to get to know him. And so I started learning more about Jesus. And at that point, I felt convicted so early in my faith. Even hearing that voice, I felt so convicted to just start posting again on social media with just the intention of helping people for where they're at and for where I was at. Because I was learning about self-love. I was learning about negativity. I was learning how to be a more positive person. And so fast, I saw this transformation. Like, I can't even experience, I can't even tell you how beautiful it was and how fast it was. It was so pure. I was so happy. Genuinely. I went from this place of darkness to happiness in such a short period of time. And I just wanted to help people. So I kept this little thing in my notes that says why I do it. And I still have it to this day. And I just wrote down every kind message someone sent me during that time. Because at the end of the day, people were the reason I kept posting. And to this day, it's still the same thing. I still only post for people. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the fame or the social status. I just care about helping people. And so I'm learning about Jesus. I'm learning all these great things and how to be a more positive person. And it's shining. It's showing. I'm starting to actually smile more. And not only that, I landed, I remember Gymshark DM'd me and they're like, hey, you want to be part of our brand? I'm like, me? I can't believe it. I was so unbelievably just ecstatic that God just blessed me with this. And I was like, wow, life really does go on and it does get better. And in 2023, I ended up moving to Charleston with my parents. And I lived there and I worked at this place part-time. And I was doing social media on the side. And I went on this trip called Alpha Land. And Alpha Land was like the peak of like gym fitness influencing. Like, if you were there, like, you knew it was just awesome. Like, it was just a really cool place. And I met all these amazing people, and everyone's like, you should be an online coach. I'm like, really? Like, an online fitness coach? They're like, yeah, you should, make a business out of it. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. I'd love to. And so my life was just changing so fast that year. I mean, I talk about the beginning of 2023, wanting to not be here. And, you know, be the middle of 2023, having an influence and having all these people just pour into me. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And people willing to help me. So I was so fired up. My parents knew I was just so fired up. I finally had like some sort of routine I was following. I was reading my Bible and I was like, I'm going to start this online coaching business. This seems great. So I did. And when I went back to school again, my junior year, I was only focused on my business. And that was a really crazy season because I was still with my girlfriend at the time, but I could not forgive myself at that point still for what I did. And that was almost a year later. And I was like, okay, I think God is calling me to literally like spend more time with him. So I ended up breaking up with my girlfriend and being like, hey, I really just want to get closer to God. And I love you and I'll always have love for you. And I know that broke her because it was so spontaneous, but I felt convicted to say, like, I can't be in this anymore because I need to improve and just learn more about myself. This is my first time I was going to spend time alone and not be caught up in, a girlfriend or some sort of like relationship or situationship in my life. Like, this is my first time in my, like, I guess, development years that I would have time to myself. So I truly dedicated that to just building my business, focusing on content and social media. And it was such an interesting time. And also learning about mental health. I was on this mental health kick because I was like, wow. I was teaching people and I felt, I got all these messages of people who were like, hey, this video really helped me. And I was like, oh, I want to learn more so I can help more. This is great. And I did. And it was great. But I started becoming this 1% man where my identity was just tied in becoming a better person in my business. And I wasn't tied in Christ yet. So this actually became a time of isolation. Like, my friends would have parties at our house because I lived in a house my junior year, and I just like would be in my room working like all night. Like, literally I worked 16 hours a day and slept like 8, and that was it. Like, I just slept 8, sleep, business. That was all it was. And it actually became very isolating. I had really good clients, but I just became very burnt out because I was just in this servant mindset, and I was like, oh, I just need to get better. I need to be better for people, and I just want to teach more people. So like, that's what I'm doing right now. But slowly it became me ignoring my grandparents, ignoring my parents, ignoring my friends, and ignoring just anyone around me. Like, I was the no man. No one would ever ask me to do anything because I never would hang out with people. And yeah, I actually kind of like dug myself in a different hole because now I was okay with being alone. I wasn't lonely. I was alone. But I also just burnt myself out of business like so fast. And so since I was an online fitness coach, I was still making fitness content. But by the end of 2023, I knew that 2024 would have a totally different, like, I just knew in my heart that there was like something different that was going to happen for me in 2024. So I prayed to God, and at the beginning of 2024, I had some crazy goals. And, one of them was like growing my business and all these things. And again, I wasn't fully surrendered to the Lord. But then one sunny January Sunday morning, I gave my life to God in my room. And it was the best thing ever. I remember waking up early at like 7, and I was watching online church. And at the end of it, I remember the sunlight just coming into my room at the perfect time, and just seeing how beautiful it was outside. It was a cold winter morning, and I just gave my life to the Lord. And at that moment, I was so happy because I finally knew what my identity was supposed to be in, and that was Christ alone. And so I had this major shift. I completely stopped posting fitness content. I only started posting content about me because God was like, start being you. I'm like, okay, like, what does that mean? I just posted on Instagram at that time, and he's like, just start posting about like your life and your journey. I was like, oh, okay. And I did, and it was so fruitful. And slowly over time, there were things that started to leave me that I didn't need anymore. There was a friendship that ended up going away. My business dissolved, gone. The thing that I spent days and hours and long nights and literally staying up all night building, gone. And there was a lot that was taken away from me, but I gained Christ in the process, and I'm so grateful. So I spent all of 2024 just surrendered and truly just growing in a relationship with Jesus, because that's what it's about. It's about a relationship with Jesus. It's an individual relationship. When you first start, that's all it's about. So I took time to read my Bible, to understand more about Jesus and what he wanted for my life. I spent more time in prayer, more time just learning, listening to YouTube and evangelism videos. And I just put a smile on my face because God truly guided me through the hardest seasons. And not only that, Jesus, he forgave me. He washed away my sins. He's washed away your sins on the cross. And man, at first, it was hard because I was kind of a baby Christian. I was a lukewarm Christian, so I wasn't truly reborn. But over time, the transformation came, and lust left me. Pride, anger, gone. I used to curse like a sailor. I don't say a single bad word anymore. And God truly transformed my heart. My happiness turned into joy. And joy is constant. And it's present. It's always present. And I just want to encourage you that God loves you so much. He really does. And he cares about you. In every detail of your life, he's there. He's there in your valleys. He's there for you in your darkest moments. And I felt God call me in my darkest moment, in the moment where I was ready to drive off that cliff. And I'm sitting here in front of you. And let this just be a testament. God has blessed me so much. I am nothing without him. And he has given me this beautiful platform to share this with you guys. And I'm just so, so grateful. So thank you so much for listening to my story. If you listen to this point, it always gets better. There's so much to look forward to in life. And Jesus is always with you. So guys, I'm going to leave you the same way I always leave you. I hope you have a blessed day, and make sure to smile today.